Alright, so this is my new track that I'm gonna be releasing hopefully this month if I get some time to finish it, but if not, again, I'm gonna release it pretty soon. So based on that track, let's start our presentation. I'm gonna walk you through all the things that I did. So first one, let's start with this. How to create hit ideas for your tracks. So number one is understanding the vibe. Be specific. You do not want to second guess yourself. When I start a track, I always know what I'm going for. So I see a lot of people, they are struggling when it comes to creating music just because you start a track and then you don't have a clear idea in mind. So here is like a super simple diagram here. So for example, you can do a minimal track or you can do something melodic, right? So I want to go back to Ableton and show you a couple of tracks that I have. So for example, you've heard the one that I showed you, but there's another one and it's a whole different, it's like organic Afro house. You see, it's like totally different vibe, and you may even feel like that it's another person who produced this track. But that's what I'm talking about, right? So have a clear idea in your mind what kind of track you want to produce. That's a super simple rule, but it's going to be so helpful. And again, I'm going to give you another example. This one is more like... This track is more like melodic techno, like my style. You see, again, it's the same principle. I had a clear idea in mind, what I wanted to produce. Of course, sometimes when you produce a track, you wanna, feel creative, do something. But again, just have some limitations. Say, hey, if I'm producing something like melodic techno, you do that. If you're producing tech house, you do that. If you're producing minimal psychedelic techno like I do, that's the thing, right? So let's go to the next tip. Focus on one idea. And I can't stress it enough how important it is. Take a look at Mona Lisa. When you look at the picture, you will notice foreground, middle ground, and background. Everything has its own purpose, and we can use it in music also. No matter the music you make, you can only focus, you can only have one focus, main idea in the track. Everything else is built around it and it supports it. So again, if I go back to I'll show you examples from these three projects. So for me, the main idea, the main sound, the driving power of this track, it was this lead sound. That's the main idea of the track. Yes, of course, I do have additional elements like cello, like the flute. But it just to support the main thing, right? And the main idea of the track was this like this kind of bass, right? And the lead sound, the ARP lead sound, what have you, like how you call it. So the main idea of the track was psychedelic, minimal vibe, techno, tech house, something like that, right? Again, the second track, let's say if we take the melodic techno one, right? Again, there's one main ARP sound which goes throughout the whole track. Don't be afraid to like use one sound in the whole track. It's okay. As long as there's movement, additional layers, automation and stuff, that's okay. And then I have this another have this plucky ethnic instrument, but again, it works together with the ARP sound. That's the whole idea of like how I produce tracks. Okay, so again, guys, focus on one idea in the track. That's super important. Next one, how I structure my tracks. So to follow with the previous tip and concept, I don't like melodic progressions in my track. Just the way I like music, right? I don't like when there's a lot of like chords movement, bass line that goes from one note to another. I like minimal, I like energetic. So basically, if you look at this diagram, and I'm gonna play the track again, normally I have only one theme in my track, right? So in this example, that was the in the first track, psychedelic one, it was this ARP sound that goes throughout the whole track, and then all I'm doing here is I'm just trying to support it with the additional elements, right? So for example, if I had to put this visually, I have the main theme, but intro built, it's where I tease it. Drop one, I may use some creative automation. I'll show you how to do it. Drop one plus energy, I may add something on top. Break, again, maybe some rhythmic variation. And drop two, climax, outro. Again, think creatively. Even if you have one sound, there's so much stuff that you can do. Automation, layering, rhythm variation, so much stuff. As long as the sound changes over time, it's okay to use it throughout the whole track. So let me bring this point home. So for example, just because there's so much movement, then I do have a different theme, right? So here I decided to mute the ARP sound just to keep the whole thing more minimal. But as you can see, like it's still pretty like important part of the track. I have it quite in quite a few places, and it goes throughout the whole track. Just because I have this automation, it is not boring, and that's the thing that I'm trying. That's the thing that I'm trying to tell you. Have movement, and then once you add more sounds on top, so here I'm focusing on the layering here, right? Again, that was the rhythmical change, right? Even if that's one note, but you change the rhythm a little bit and it goes well with the groove, it's already more than enough for a good track. You don't really need more than that, okay? The second example is, I just want you to listen solo to the cello that I have. I unfortunately do not have the MIDI, but you're just gonna hear. You can just listen to how it sounds and listen to how I'm using basically one main idea, but with a variation in the rhythm, in the melody. It just sounds unique. It sounds that there's a lot of stuff happening. By the way, same thing you can do to the bass line. If you look at the bass line here, it is a bit different. It's actually I just copied the notes from the cello and I'm playing the same notes on the bass line with some tweaks. So here again, at the end of the loop, I had this transition, right? And once you start adding more and more elements that go together with the rhythm, for example, just with flute, it's like, fuck, I just love it. It's such a good track. And then you can develop this thing even further with like more sounds and more sounds. So for example, we do like this. So that's the thing, really simple, but really, really effective. Let me see. Oh yeah, rhythm variation, melodic variation, and so on and so on. There's one really important thing that I want to talk about now as well. Record long live loops for your tracks. This is so underrated. I don't see a lot of people talking about that, especially when it comes to like electronic dance music, because I don't know why people don't talk about that. Like, I'm gonna take this flute now. I'm gonna take this flute and show you like exactly how I did it. So I'm gonna record this thing again so you see how much you can do. I'm just gonna play the main lead sound and maybe the cello, right? So you're gonna see how powerful is that. But before I do that, the main arp sound that I have here, this is the size. You see this little red rectangle. So it is just like this long compared to the cello loop. There's a massive difference between clicking melodies with your mouse. I do that quite often, but I enjoy way more when I use like my synthesizer here, flute, live instruments. When you're playing a live instrument, that's a whole different dimension when you do it this way. When you try creating music like a performer, you cannot go back anymore. So let me record this flute for you so you see how you can improvise and how you can use one note. And by the way, using just one note because this flute is out of the key, but I'll show you how I do it so you can check it out and feel the vibe and, you know, just enjoy the track with me, okay? So you see in one take, like I'm getting goosebumps, by the way, like I feel high, like I'm on drugs, to be honest, like I'm vibing to this track so much. So you saw that in just one take, I did 1 minute of unique samples that you can break throughout the whole track, right? You can chop it. There's so much stuff that you can do. So do not underestimate how much you can do. Like really, guys, play your synths. Like be a fucking musician. Come on, like stop clicking with your mouse. Please just get some sort of like MIDI keyboard because it's so powerful. You can do so much with that, and you know it's really cool. Just trust me, like you're gonna vibe to the track so much more. Okay, so that's a real life example. I hope it makes sense with recording long live loops. You can use any instrument, but it's so powerful. Now, next thing is simplify. As simple as it sounds, simplify your tracks. it's always easy to add new sounds, but the more sounds you have, the harder it is to finish a track, the harder it is to mix, the harder it is to play in the club, and so on. Also, it's harder for the listener to focus on the main idea of the track. This is just like a schematic example of your mix, how it could look like. Let's say you just have one main idea like I did, and then maybe some additional sounds to kind of support it. But the more you start adding second melody, pads, chords, and so on, like, it just becomes super busy. So do not add too much. Really, try limiting yourself. Focus on kick, bass, maybe one melodic idea, and everything else. Just write one track like this around one melody. So everything should support it. Again, you can use melodic variation, rhythmic variation, but try making stuff simpler. Again, as easy as it sounds, it is actually not that easy, right? So still, it's pretty complex if I play you this track. Still, right? And with all the sounds, it can get quite complex, but still, you know, simple stuff always sounds better. I don't want to focus too much on this example. Again, it speaks for itself. So just simplify as much as you can. Be like relentless, take stuff out, and focus on one main groove. So the more space you have on your track, the easier it is to bounce for the track, and the easier it is to do everything else. Okay? Now, focus on movement and dynamics, and this is, I think, the topic and the thing that a lot of people underestimate, and this is the thing that a lot of people forget about. So when I'm talking about movement and dynamics, again, it kind of ties to this slide, right? So automation, lead layering, and so on. But focus on that. So it could be, again, automation, rhythm, melody, spatial effects, and so on and so on. So this is a schematic example. So I decided to make it like a wave, right? It should be like a wave. It goes back and it goes forth, right? Like, music is all about the dynamics. When I started performing my music in the club, I was like, ooh, okay, I can feel the frequencies, and it's like, move to the beat, dance to your music, play it on speakers, because like if you're just listening on the headphones, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work like this. You gotta listen to it. You gotta feel the vibe, feel the frequencies, and so on. So I want to show you like one really, really simple example, and it will give you everything that you need to know. Really, when it comes to automation, when it comes to spatial effects and so on, you can just apply the same concept. So just listen to the cello here. So what we have here is really simple, right? And then take a look at the automation of my bass line. So the bass line, I did this on my synth. And if you listen to the bass here, I'm just going to reduce that a little bit. You can see I have this really like complicated pattern for the automation. But the purpose of the automation was to create like a bounce, a groove together with the cello. So for example, if we do... and we can push it a little bit more, just so you could feel the bounce. So basically, the purpose of all automation is to accentuate the notes that you have with your instruments, right? And when you listen, let's say like we're gonna listen in the, could be like in a club environment even, right? So we do nightclub. And then, yeah, you just really have to decide how much of the filter you want to open and so on, right? So again, the main goal is to support the groove, support the vibe. And the same thing you do with the reverb, right? So for example, I can pretty much do the same thing. So if I take the cello and I make it dry, and then I can support the cello with like this. And this all helps you to work with the dynamics, work with the energy. Again, I don't want to make it too long. I'm giving you the tools, I'm giving you the concepts, but the rest you have to figure out itself. I think this example was enough. So be creative with rhythm, with automation, with dynamics and all that stuff when it comes to like automation of the instruments. And again, to summarize, even if you have like a super minimal track like I do, of course, there's a lot of tracks, but it's still pretty minimal and simple. I have just like, how much, like 30 something channels, which is quite minimal. If you utilize those techniques properly, oh, it's going to be so powerful. Okay, so there's the last thing that I want to talk about. Accentuate the energy. So I'm going to play you the track from the beginning again. Just take a look at this picture. So there's a dialogue between these two instruments, the cello and the flute that I recorded live for you. Sometimes they play together, sometimes they play separately. So if we go here and you play I'm going to play you the cello. Where do I have the, that was the new flute, right? But we can skip it. So here we have the cello and we have the flute. So if you listen to those two instruments, how they have a dialogue, right? Just without my comments, just listen to how they sound and what parts of the cello the flute accentuates, right? It's just no comments, just listen to it. So I remember one of the comments under my post. So someone told that, like, I don't know where to put counter melodies, all of that stuff. This is like a pure example of how you can put these counter melodies. You have one theme and then you do accents. It's call and response. At the same time, you can accentuate. Again, I cannot teach you everything that I know. You have still to spend a lot of time on that yourself. But that gives you like a little perspective on how I do things, right? So I sometimes they play together, right? I'm trying to accentuate. Sometimes they play, you see there's an empty space, right? But that's really the thing. That's really the thing. So yeah, I think these are all the tips that I have for you today. Let me know what you think of the video. I'm trying to add a bit more like video editing, make it more engaging. So include some live loops and something like that. So let me know what you guys think of the new formats, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So bye.